Hi everyone, we hope you and your families are all staying safe and healthy. Over the break, we would like all 9th, 10th, and 11th graders to begin working on some projects that will help prepare you for coming applications. This will allow us to hit the ground running when we're all returned to school. In this video, Molly and I are going to walk through 2 assignments that must be completed by all 11th graders by May 19th, and 1 assignment that should be completed by all 9th, 10th, and 11th graders by May 30th.
This next assignment is for all 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. Now, before the break began, back in February, you all created Unifrog accounts. So go to unifrog.org and log in with whatever username and password you already created. Once you're logged in, it should bring you to a screen that looks like this. The Unifrog is a really great tool to help you with your applications. We're going to be using it a lot this year. It's a great way to get everything you need in one place when you're getting ready to apply, keep track of how ready you are in your applications, identify things that you need to do to get even more ready to apply. So once you're on this front page, scroll down, and we're going to start with the recording what you've done section here. So start by going to the activities tool right here and open up the tool. That should bring you to a page that looks like this. This is where you're going to record any extracurricular activities you've already done. So that could be things like clubs and sports you were in, leadership roles like being a proctor, projects you worked on, family responsibilities, anything you've done outside of class. So click on Add an Activity, and that brings you to a page that looks like this. So start by thinking about one activity. What was your role? Were you in a club? Did you help run an activity? Were you on a sports team? Were you a proctor? Anything you did. Just type in what your role was here. Then select an activity type that best reflects what activity you did from these different categories. Then put a detailed description right here. Try to be as detailed and descriptive as possible about what it was you did, what the impact of this was, and what your role in the activity was. Then put the dates that you started this activity, the month and the year. And lastly, think of a reference, someone who can confirm that you did this activity. Maybe it's a teacher who oversaw the club or sport or activity. Maybe it's another student, anyone who can confirm what you did. Try to add as many activities as possible. This will get all this information in one place and make it much easier to remember all these details once you're filling out applications. Okay, once you've finished the activities tool, we also want you to look at the competencies tool. Okay, so click on Go to Tool, and that brings you to a page that looks like this. Now these competencies are different from the competencies you need to complete in your classes. These competencies reflect different skills that universities look for in their applicants. We want you to use this tool to record times that you've shown these different skills, so you can keep track of what your strengths are, maybe what your areas of growth this upcoming year might be, and remember important examples of when you've shown these skills that you can write about or talk about later. So look at these different competencies. The first one is aiming high. When have you set a tough goal and devised a plan to achieve it? The next one's creativity. When have you used your imagination to come up with new ideas? Next one's leadership. When have you motivated people to do something positive? Once you've identified one of these competencies, and you can think of the time that you've shown that skill, click Add Now. And that'll bring you to a page that looks like this. Okay, so think about the situation when you showed this competency. Select from the drop-down menu the best description of what that situation was. Put the date that you started and a detailed description of when you showed this skill. So when did you aim high? Maybe you were really struggling in a class, so you made a plan for yourself and you started going to office hours and you worked really hard, and then you were able to get a good grade in the class you were struggling in. In that case, put a description here of when you set that tough goal and be very specific about how you plan to achieve it. For all these competencies, you want to be as detailed and specific as possible. Try to record as many competencies as you can think of for right now. If you can't think of situations for some of them, that's totally fine. Those might be areas of growth for this coming year. Now, once you've completed as many activities and competencies as you can think of for right now, you're done. And we're going to be using Unifrog a lot, so stay tuned for more information coming later.
In order to edit this PDF, you should download a PDF viewer such as Adobe Acrobat Reader, which is what I use. You'll notice that this form is fillable, but in order to do that, you must go over to Fill and Sign, click Fill and Sign, and then you have access to the entire form. So of course, at the beginning, you'll start with your biographical information, go into who you reside with and check anyone who applies. You'd be using this checkmark function, let's say father. We would click there, drag it on over. Click it, let's say, with an uncle as well, and then we're good to go. We keep going. Then again, we have our text editor that we selected, and then you'll go through all the different questions such as salary and wages, property income, business net income, any family members who contribute to your family's expenses, and any other kind of income. And if you select this and put a dollar amount, let's say 250 US dollars, right? And all the amounts will be in dollars at this point. At the bottom of this, if you put anything in this other income section, you'll put it here. Let's say government retirement check. Then what will also happen is you'll look at the family members who are employed, if any, in your family. Now, if this doesn't apply, you'll move on to the next section, which is how many people are dependent on the family income for daily living expenses. Now, when I say dependent, it's usually someone who's under 18 who benefits from a family member's income, such as a brother or a cousin who may live in the same house as you do. Next, we have a section that is annual/monthly expenses. Now, of course, it's going to be distinguished down here, right, in order to calculate properly. So taxes paid to the government, if there's any taxes, you're going to look at anything that doesn't have monthly, it's going to be annual. So let's say that is going to be $100, all right? Rent on properties. When I say rent on properties, this is rent that you pay. If you own your house, you put 0. So let's say, yes, we own our house, we put 0. Medical expenses, that's average throughout the year, right? If you have a grandmother or an older aunt or uncle who you have to pay expenses to, you would put those here. Let's say it's just medicine, $100 per year. Automobile, those are any expenses associated with an automobile, whether that's maintenance, whether that's fuel, petrol, right? If you got in an accident, tires, parts, anything that you've paid, that is an expense on the family for your car or Land Cruiser, whatever. Food is going to be monthly. You're going to estimate how much per month does it take to feed everyone who's in the immediate family, everyone who lives in that household. Clothing, again, this is going to be a yearly estimate, right? We know clothing kind of varies year to year. You're going to get the best possible average for how much your family spends on clothing per year. Utilities, that's a monthly expense because that's how it's normally paid. Utilities is things like water, things like electricity, sometimes cell phone bills, and then including things like internet as well. And then I know some families do have some help around the house, whether that's cleaning or cooking. Now, what do you pay those people or that person per month? That's going to be monthly as well. And loans, that's if anyone has taken out any loans from a bank. That is the amount that you currently owe as an expense. And I put some of these explanations here as well on the bottom, just so you can reference them when you're filling this form. The next part is again about the home and the residence. Does your family own its home? If you rent and pay per month, you're going to put no, okay? And here you can put this little guy here in order to circle one or the other. Does your family own any other property? Those are things like either land that you use or land that you rent out, right, as a house or some kind of apartment, whatever. If you answer yes to this question, you're going to type that explanation here, especially if it's rented out to other people, so that we know that there's an additional source of income for the family. Present value of home, that's someone you would talk to, that's something that you would ask the homeowner. All right, you would ask the homeowner, how much is this home worth if you sold it today? Okay. The next part is the present value of other properties, right? So you would put that if you have other properties, what are they worth if you sold them today? The next part is going to just be school fees. So you're going to list out each person of your family who pays school fees with the correct amount for tuition for each month. So this is for the month, all right? You're going to list those amounts in US dollar, all right? So let's say Mohammed Jama, let's just say that, whatever, goes to University of Boroma. Actually, don't know if that's actually a real thing. Then you're going to put it costs $50 per month, and the amount pays the full amount. You're going to do that for every single person who is currently in school, all right? The next part are things that we can use to verify that, and when I say we, that's the school and then other schools and universities who have to have these kinds of documents in order to prove the information that you put into this form. So let's say your uncle, let's say Omar Hassan, all right? Right now they have $2,000. Oop, I put 20. They have $2,000 in the bank, all right? So we should probably see a bank statement for Omar Hassan. Now, whether or not it has $2,000 is another question, right? But it's going to show us the overall in the last 6 or so months to give us a sense of the money that comes in and out of a bank account like that. So we have an estimate of how much money the family can have in savings or in income, right? You can verify income as well if you deposit checks or deposit ZOD into a bank account. So you're going to attach this on that Google form that we've put in the Google Classroom. And then the last thing, or the last things I should say, are the estimated family contribution to students' expenses during the application year. Current year meaning 2020-2021. So this is the full amount that the family can pay outside of the tuition that they may be paying to a BARSO that are for these other expenses that normally aren't covered by anyone else, right? So these are things that normally don't always have fee waivers. Sometimes those can't be secured, right? So you need to talk to your family about covering some of these expenses that a university nor a testing agency can provide sometimes in these cases. Then the next part is looking at the future. If you're in university or in another program, what have you, what is the amount that the family can contribute to your expenses if you're going to school abroad? So keep in mind, you would not be paying a BARSA's tuition, but there are other expenses that are included: pocket money, travel expenses, books. Some of these things are not included even in the most full scholarships at universities, in colleges and schools. And so some of these need to be covered by the family. So again, talking to your family about in the future, what can they put down in terms of support financially for some of these expenses. And I've given a few examples to things that are not covered by most scholarships / financial aid from universities or boarding schools. So those are things like visas. Universities normally don't cover these costs. That can cost anywhere from $80 to $160 to even more. So for instance, if you have to go to Kenya to get a visa, let's say for Japan, you're already paying $400 to get a visa to go to Kenya. Beyond that, you're paying a sum of money to go and get your visa to Japan. Then there's the flight, et cetera, et cetera. If those things aren't covered, they add up as well. So flight to the country to get a visa, sometimes that's anywhere in $200 to $400. These are mostly destinations in East Africa. The ACT, SAT tests, we do our best to find ways to have fee waivers for these, such as from College Board for the SAT. The ACT at the moment doesn't have any fee waivers, so normally we ask families to contribute as much as they can, up to the full amount, to cover these expenses. Vaccinations normally needed for matriculation to university in the United States for the most part. Now you do need vaccinations for some other countries as well. And then again, considering flying to your country of study. Again, a lot of scholarships do not always cover the flight to and from the country of study. So that ranges from anywhere from $600 to $1,400 US one way. Sometimes that's not even considering round trip, so returning back to Somaliland for the summer or what have you. Books, anywhere from $200 to $600 to even more. Again, something that's not always covered in some of these scholarships. And then pocket money, right? Just money to be able to do things and be able to buy things to help with living in your new country. Whether that's bedding, a winter coat, new clothes for the environment, whatever. All that's estimated to be about $3,410 if I'm looking at the highest estimate. And those costs vary. The last thing you're going to do is the statement of truth is saying that everything you have put here is true, correct, and complete. And if there's ever any changes, you'll contact us so we can make changes to this financial aid application. So you'll go here and you'll sign. I'll just use mine. You'll date it, 2020, and be done with it. If you have any questions, please email me. I'm happy to help filling out this form. Thank you. The last assignment for 11th graders is a Google form titled College Counseling Survey, which is available on the Google Classroom.